So Carly, if you don't mind, I assume you have the presentation loaded.
I got you.
Great, thank you. So this trip is the first time that San Diego has done a community trip since 2006. So more than 15 years since this community has traveled together. And this was the vision of the Michael Jesser of blessed memory, who was the CEO before me, and of the board. And we wanted to bring people together in this community. And this is celebrating so many things. In particular, this is the 75th birthday of the state of Israel. And it is the 25th anniversary of our partnership with our sister city, Shar HaNegev. And so it really is an incredible opportunity. And as I think about this trip, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, it is an opportunity to bring our community together after a time in which our society and our community has been divided by sort of political challenges, by the pandemic. All sorts of things have separated us, and it's time for us to come together. So. And your dates are May 4th through 11th. We're going to talk more about the details of that in a moment. So we're going to, as I said, highlights, the itinerary, a little bit of who we think is going. Carly and Jane are going to give you some information about the electives, and you'll be able to start choosing those in the next couple of weeks. So an update on registration, and then take any questions. And that's Jaffa. So we talked about Israel at 75. It's an exciting year to be going, and you know, Israel is a complex modern country, and we're going to have the chance to really understand Israel at this point in its history. This is not a, you know, everything is coming up roses tour. This is really understanding the complexity of life in modern Israel. Pluralism is hard. Coexistence is hard. It's a very expensive place to live. There are challenges there. There's also incredible development that's happening, technological and cultural.
So that's my point.
Hey, if everybody could just mute, that would be great. Thank you. So we're going to see all of that. We have, you know, just if you're wondering what kind of trip this is not birthright. You are staying in 5-star hotels everywhere we go. We'll have wonderful meals. You're going to have an opportunity to visit some of the programs and the places that the dollars that Federation raises here in San Diego go and support in Israel. And part of the point of this is really to foster that connection. One of our goals overall, part of our mission is fostering dynamic connections with Israel and Jews overseas. Right now, we are really focused on building those people-to-people connections. So our hope is that everybody who goes on this trip, you're not just seeing sights, but you are really engaging with the people of Israel. And when you come home, you've got some phone numbers in your phone of people that the next time you go, you're going to go and you're going to have dinner with, you're going to stay with them. They'll probably invite you to come to their house for a week. We want you to have friends in Israel. We also want you to have friends when you come back to San Diego that you might not have been friends with before. And I will just say that this is not just about what happens on the trip itself, but it is about what happens before the trip and after, the next 5 years. The relationships that develop on this trip, the leadership that is going to emerge from this trip will impact this community for many years. And if you look at the people who were on the trip in 2006, the impact of that was huge, and it's still being felt to this day. We're ready to do that again. We'll be traveling both in small groups and large. We have wonderful events for the entire community. You know, for example, we are going to sit down together as a community in Jerusalem for Shabbat dinner. Now, there'll be people who will daven in different ways, people who will be having different Shabbat experiences, but Shabbat dinner, we are a community. Lag BaOmer, bonfire, we are a community. So it's a mix of intimate experiences and when it's appropriate, really wonderful community-wide events. People going, we have a whole range of people going. What I will say is it's not a family trip. It's not for kids. This is really a trip that is designed for adults. We're going to have some, you know, if there are some really serious college students or post-college students, that makes sense. Other than that, we really need to talk to you about it. That being said, aside from that, it's for everybody. If you have never been to Israel before, this is a great trip for you. If you have been every year for the past 20 years, this is a great trip for you. There will be experiences to meet all of your needs. We have many community leaders who are going. We have a lot of people who have never been engaged in community before. We have a wonderful group of young professionals. We have subsidies available for people in their between 25 and 45. We have Jewish communal professionals, people who work at Jewish organizations, people who are members of synagogues who aren't. We have interfaith couples going. We have people who are single, people who are married. We have entire families going, and anyone who's looking for Jewish community and Jewish experience in San Diego. So we hope that will include everyone on this call. All right, I'm going to turn it over for Carly to take you through this.
Great. So yeah, so we're really looking forward to this. Jane and I have been putting a ton of work into really building out, I think, an excellent itinerary. So I'm just going to walk you through a couple of the highlights, and then if you have additional questions or you want to see a more detailed version, I'm happy to share that with you offline. But the trip starts on May 4th. We're going to start in Jerusalem. For those of you who have never been to Israel before, we really want to encourage you to at least get in on the 3rd. So you can spend the day on the 4th really doing some of our pre-trip excursions that we're going to have available in Jerusalem, things like going to see the Kotel, some of the more traditional touring of Jerusalem that we're not going to do on the trip itself, but we will have available during the day on the 4th. We'll officially kick off the trip with dinner the evening of the 4th. So we'll get to flights and stuff later on, but if you're on some of our preferred flights, you'll get in, you'll go to your hotel, and then you'll come and meet us for our opening dinner. After dinner, there'll be a couple of optional late night activities for those who are up for a little bit of meeting with some locals, going out to the bars. We'll have that available. But after that, day 2, we'll be in Jerusalem. We're going to spend the day visiting Yad Vashem. We'll have lunch and a lot of free time for shopping and exploring Machne Yehuda, which is the big shuk in Jerusalem. And then, as Heidi mentioned, we're going to do Kabbalat Shabbat dinner all together as a big community. And there'll be options for people if you choose to go to services or want to do some other things in Jerusalem that evening. But dinner will be all together. So day 3 is actually Shabbat in Jerusalem, which is a really wonderful opportunity. If you've never been in Shabbat in Jerusalem, the city kind of stops. Everyone takes a deep breath. So we don't have a lot of programming happening that day. There's a lot of optional things that you can choose to opt into. So for example, if you've never been to Israel, we'll offer an excursion to go down to the Dead Sea and Masada on that day, if that's something you're interested in doing. There'll be Shabbat lunches at the hotels we're staying in. We're going to offer some walking tours of Jerusalem and the Old City. But really, you get to choose your own adventure during the day. We'll all come together for a beautiful Havdalah ceremony, and then a free evening to go out to dinner or do what you want to do with your friends. On day 4, so that's Sunday, we're going to start our day with a very special meeting with the President of Israel. That's going to be our elective day in Jerusalem. So we'll talk in just a bit about what the elective options for that day, but you'll choose what you really want to focus your time on in Jerusalem. So you'll have about 6-7 hours on a bus with people that share that interest with you, doing those activities. And then we'll all come back together for a tour of the Knesset. And then we'll have another free evening in Jerusalem that night. On day 5 is going to be really exciting. One of the highlights of the trip is we are going to, we have a private train that's going to take us down to the south. We're going to spend the day in Shar HaNegev. We're going to be meeting with residents of the different kibbutzim there. We'll get tours. You'll have lunch hosted by a family that lives there to talk to you about what it's like living in Shar HaNegev, what their day-to-day looks like, how the San Diego community partnership has really impacted that region. And then we're going to all come together. We're going to tour the new Arts and Culture Center that was built from donations from San Diego. We're going to dedicate the basketball court there to our late CEO, Michael Jesser. And then we're going to spend the evening at a Lag BaOmer festival with artisans and a bonfire and a barbecue dinner and just, a really fun festive night with everyone who also lives in the region. So it'll be a big party, not just of San Diegans, but of everyone that lives in Shar HaNegev. After that, we're going to head up to Tel Aviv. The first day in Tel Aviv will be a secondary day of elective, so you'll get to choose again what you really want to focus your time on that day. We'll have a free evening in Tel Aviv that night. Day 7, we're going to go up to the north. So with your bus, you'll explore different things up in the north. Everyone's going to have a little bit of fun. They'll do some site visits with some of our partners at the Joint Distribution Committee and the Jewish Agency for Israel. And then we're going to have a festive dinner and concert up in the north. It's going to be a really, really fun night of everyone together. And then our trip kind of comes to a close. We're going to spend the last day back in Tel Aviv. We'll visit the Museum of Jewish Peoplehood that just opened. It's supposed to be amazing. I haven't been yet, but I'm looking forward to it. We'll have some extra free time to get in that shopping that you want to do at the last minute. And then we're going to kind of reflect as a group on what this trip looked like, what it meant to you, what did you see, what do you want to take back to San Diego, and we'll have a farewell dinner all together. So for those that are leaving, we'll provide transportation to the airport directly after that dinner. And then for those who are staying to be in Israel for a little bit longer or coming with us to the UAE, we'll talk about, what those logistics look like in a second.
And Carly, can I just jump in really quickly?
Sure.
One of the nice things about having a trip of this size is that if there are people living in Israel from San Diego or visiting Israel at the same time, we're going to invite them to join us for some of these events. For example, the San Diego Jewish Academy seniors are going to be in Israel while we're there, and we're going to have a chance to join with them. If there are lone soldiers, and we know that there are between 10 and 15 lone soldiers from San Diego, we're going to invite them to come to some of our events as well. So really be as inclusive as we can of everybody who is currently in Israel, so that we really are forming community across 10,000 miles.
Right. So as I mentioned, there are elective days in both Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. So when you register coming up in the second phase of registration, you're going to tell us your top 2 choices for both cities. So I'm just going to give you a sentence about what each of these are, but if you want more details or you have questions, please reach out. So in Jerusalem, we're going to do the flavors of Jerusalem. So that's really food and wine. That's walking through the shuk with a guided tour. It's a cooking class. That's a wine tasting day. The City of Three Religions is really about coexistence. So you'll do a walking tour of the old city. You'll learn about how in Jerusalem, the Abrahamic religions really come together and they're living together in peace and harmony. And then on the other side of that, the conflict that arises with that. So it'll be an exploration of really the dichotomy of the religions in Jerusalem. Celebrating women entrepreneurs. So there are some phenomenal businesses and entrepreneurial women in Jerusalem, and we're going to meet with them. We're going to see what they do and talk to them about the great things that are happening. And again, some of the challenges that they face. We're going to look at really, one of our focuses here in San Diego is fighting poverty, Jewish poverty in San Diego. So we're going to look at that in Israel and in Jerusalem, specifically going through East Jerusalem, and what is Israel doing to break cycles of poverty. And if you choose this elective, we'll get you together before we go, so you can understand really what it looks like in San Diego, so you can compare and contrast while you're in Israel. This grassroots change in Jerusalem, there is a group of phenomenal young activists that are really working on the ground to make change in Jerusalem. And so we're going to meet with them. We're going to tour the city with them. We're going to have lunch with them. I mean, it's going to be a phenomenal day seeing what they're doing in action in real time. And then the last elective is really about, this impact, like the Jewish state. What does Jewish pluralism, I can never say that word, look like in Jerusalem? What does it look to be in an interfaith relationship, or to be an LGBTQ couple that wants to adopt a child? So it's looking at those issues and how Israel is handling them. So it's going to be a really interesting day, meeting with some of those people, talking to professionals on the ground there that are really working to make change. In Tel Aviv, we have, again, the food and wine option. We're going to do a day looking at high tech and social cohesion. Tel Aviv is one of the high tech capitals of the world. So touring, one of the places we're looking at is the new National Blood Bank Center that is supposed to be state of the art. It sounds weird, but it's, from everything we've heard, sounds incredible. I'm getting to see what they're doing there and how they've operationalized that. It's supposed to be a phenomenal site visit. Looking at the arts and culture of Tel Aviv, looking at perhaps doing a walking tour of the street art in Tel Aviv and some of the cultural implications, meeting with artists there. This idea of like a multicultural mosaic in Tel Aviv. So meeting with refugees and immigration, how they deal with inclusion. This elective specifically is going to meet with Ukrainian refugees that have landed in Tel Aviv, and what does that look like for them? How have they made Aliyah? What have their journeys been? Again, in Tel Aviv, looking at areas of mutual coexistence, going to Jaffa, walking around, seeing the ways that this coexistence plays out in the marketplaces and in the restaurants, and the way that life is lived there. And this last one, adventures in activism. So this is going to be a really fun upbeat day. We're going to do something like the Amazing Race Tel Aviv to get to see the city, but meet with young people that are activists in Tel Aviv and hear what they're doing. This will include a surfing lesson with a nonprofit there that's working with kids with special needs, and some volunteer opportunities. We'll kind of round out that elective day. Just pausing to see if there's any questions about the electives, or if Heidi or Jay want to add anything.
Yeah, I'd like to add, Carly, that was
Great.
a great rundown. I just want to pick up on something that Carly touched upon, and that is that on some of these electives, both in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, we are going to have an opportunity to meet beforehand for those people who have registered for a particular elective, not only to compare and contrast, as Carly said, but it's also an opportunity to meet some of the people beforehand that you'll be traveling with. Because really, as Heidi said, this is not just about community building and connecting with people in Israel and having those long-lasting relationships, but it's community building here as well. And so when you register for these things, keep in mind we will be following up with emails and let you know if there are going to be pre-meetings for those electives. We'd love to have you join us.
Great. And this is just, a quick rundown of, we said if you want to come early, if you've never been to Israel, these are some examples of things that we're going to offer in at least the day, maybe the 2 days before we officially kick off, depending on interest.
Could you explain a little bit more on in Jerusalem, the City of Three Religions? Will that be going through the old, walled area and seeing the Church of the Sepulchre like we did last time? Is it going to be going through all of that area?
Yeah, so that one will include a walking tour of, the old city and talking through some of those things. I don't know exactly how in depth it will get in each of those areas because we have a limited amount of time, but we are additionally going to be offering on Saturday, on Shabbat, and a walking tour through the Christian quarter that will really go more in depth into some of those really historic Christian sites. But it will include that elective day will include at least a walking tour through the old city and the three areas.
Any other questions about any of that? Okay, we'll take more questions at the end, so we can just keep going. So just for logistical purposes, officially, as Carly said, the trip begins the evening of May 4th, but we will have activities on the 3rd and during the day of the 4th available. And we'll have tour guides and we'll have buses. Again, we really do recommend if people are coming for the first time that they do make an effort to do that. And we're done on the 11th. Departure flights would be those midnight flights on the 11th, 1 a.m. on the 12th, if you're going straight home or you're leaving right away. If you're going to be going to Dubai with us in the UAE, which I'm super excited about, that flight, we're going to leave all together on the morning of the 12th. So we'll need to have an extra night in the hotel in Tel Aviv. Right now, we have a block of seats on El Al to and from Israel, and all that information is on the websites under flights. I can't remember what the tab is, but you'll see it right on our website where we have a travel agent that we have a relationship with. We're not booking flights for anybody, but you can reach out to her and let her know you're with this trip, with this group, and it's World Express Travel, and they'll help you get your flights booked. I've done that for my husband and son, and they were very helpful. Okay. And then the UAE, the kickoff for the trip starts, I think, what did we say, 4 o'clock, Carly? 4 o'clock on the 4th. That's the official beginning of the trip. Okay. And again, we'll have stuff for people to do before that, but officially we want everyone to be there by 4 o'clock on the 4th and to be there. So getting there at 2, what'll happen is you're just going to have to come straight to the kickoff dinner. If you can get in earlier or the day before, you'll have time to get to the hotel, get cleaned up and change. There's, the El Al flight gets in, I think, at 11. So, and we have a lot of recommended flights on the list. Again, we're happy to talk to you. It is a dinner. Do we know for sure where we are that opening night, Jane and Carly? In Jerusalem?
I believe we're in a grass area outside of the old city.
Right next to the wall where you and I visited, Jane. Okay, that's a beautiful spot. So yeah, we'll be right outside the old city, right up against the wall. It's quite spectacular. Okay, next. So Dubai and the UAE, and we have added this, and a lot of Federation trips are going to the UAE and synagogue trips. Beth Israel just came back because the Abraham Accords have completely changed the fabric of life in the Middle East around these countries. And there are multiple flights daily between Tel Aviv and Dubai. There are tons of Israelis going and either just going to shop and sort of vacation for the weekend or to establish businesses. There's a JCC being built. There's a synagogue in the hotel. There's a chief rabbi of Dubai. There is so much trade and investment back and forth between these countries right now. And it really is due to the Abraham Accords. So we want to explore that and understand it a little bit. So we'll be meeting with political leaders, with sort of academics, experts, journalists. We have a ton of people that are going to be helping us to make this trip really special. And meeting some of the Jews who are currently living in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi to talk to them about what they're seeing and experiencing. We'll learn about some of the Federation programs, in particular, the Joint Distribution Committee, the JDC, and how they're helping the efforts to build Jewish community and to support Jews living in the UAE. And we'll have plenty of time to have some fun, to get to the top of the Burj Khalifa, if that's your thing, to explore the marina, to sample the incredible cuisine, to shop, to explore some of the mosques and the architecture, the older architecture of the UAE. And so that should be wonderful. As I said, we will, if you book the Dubai piece of the trip, the travel between Israel and Dubai will be taken care of. And if you're going to do that, you need to get yourself to Israel and you need to get yourself home from Dubai. But we'll take care of the in-between. So let's talk pricing. The Israel portion of this for double occupancy without airline fares, right? This is just the land cost is $39.99 per person. If you were in that 25 to 45 age range, we have a limited number of $1,000 subsidies. So please, register and we'll work on that subsidy for you. If you are looking for single occupancy, it's an additional $1,600. We will also help you find a roommate if you would like to find a roommate if you don't want to pay that single subsidy. That includes most meals, including these very big celebratory dinners, all of the mega events. So there's music and there's all sorts of festivities included in that. It includes the price of the tour guides, taxes, and transfers. It does not include tips, and we'll give you some instructions about that. Up until next week, there's a $500 deposit due. By November 30th, which is coming next week, we're going to acquire 50% of that land cost be paid, and that's the basic land cost. Now, and for just a couple more points on that. Once we go to phase 2 registration, which should be live for everyone who is registered already on Monday, next Monday, and then about a week or two later, it'll be open to anybody to register. Then we're gonna have a whole new calculation because some of the excursions have a little bit of an extra cost. Perhaps you want an upgraded room. Perhaps you want VIP concierge service. And so you'll register for any of the extras, and then we'll send you an updated bill for that. So by February 28th, everything's going to have to be paid. When it comes to the UAE is not an inexpensive place to visit. So we've tried to create 2 different price points. All the activities will be identical. The only difference between these 2 is the hotel. The St. Regis is very, very, very upscale hotel, and that's going to be $5,700 per person. And again, that's for double occupancy. And the JW Marriott, which is also 5-star, but a little less 5-star than the other 5-star, is at $4,250 per person. And we can provide you signal supplement costs if you'd like that as well. And again, none of that includes airfare. So that is how the pricing works on the trip. Okay, and I think we can take this down and then take your questions. There will be time. There's 3 free nights where you can see anybody you want. Shabbat also in Jerusalem is a free day. You can go connect with whoever you want. We also have activities planned. And if you're concerned because you haven't been to Israel before and you don't have friends and family, if there's a free night, we'll have a number of choices for you with groups on the trip. We will have options. We'll have reservations at restaurants. We'll have activities. You are never going to be left to fend for yourself if you don't want to. If you want to, that's fine. And we have opportunities for that as well. So let's comments, questions, thoughts. Go ahead, Carly. Did you want to jump in? No. Okay.
I don't remember. Sorry.
So
Hey, hi, this is Julie. I have a little question.
sure.
First of all, thanks so much for all the information. I'm excited and it's nice to see faces. Jane, it's nice to see your face. I know you've been helping me with some things, and Debbie also. I just had a question about with the itinerary. There was something about, safety measures going from, I don't know, when we go to, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, Sderot.
Sderot in Shar HaNegev.
Right. There's a security measure. What does that look like? What is that? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, Jane, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Sure. What we want to share with everybody, because Shar HaNegev is our partnership, and several of the kibbutzim are on the border between Gaza, or on the border of Gaza. And so we just want to let everybody know what the geopolitical situation is when you live in what's called the Gaza envelope, to see how close you are, and to hear from the residents who live in those kibbutzim what life is like when you live that close. So that's what we mean by the security information.
And are you concerned, Julie, just so we're clear on what are the security precautions that we are taking as an organization for the trip?
Right. So that was where I was going, but actually what Jane just said was comforting too, where we want to hear their views on what it's like for them. So that's great to be able to be a part of that, to hear that and see that. But yes, I was wondering, are there precautions for us as travelers?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Jane, we are debating between, either an extremely high level of security or, the extraordinarily high. And we will have armed security guards. We have connections to the Israeli government. This is baked into every Federation trip. This is part of what you get when you come on a Federation trip. And, part of the cost is making sure that we really are very, very buttoned up when it comes to security. And, they know every day where we're going and what we're doing. And if there's any hint of anything that's problematic, we redirect. We have plenty of folks on the ground who are making those decisions, and on the buses with us, making sure that we're safe at all times. We don't take any of that casually at all.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure. Other questions? And I know we have a number of people on this call who also work at Jewish organizations, and some of you will be joining us ahead of time. One of the things that we're really lucky to have is a pre-trip for some of our Jewish communal professionals, to get to know each other and to build out our relationship professionally with Shar HaNegev. So we're very excited about that as well.
Heidi, when
Yes.
50% of the cost is due, which is soon, where does it go to? Do you take credit cards, different forms of payment? How do you do that? And how do we pick the electives, or how do we tell you what we want at that point?
Sure. So why don't I let Carly give you some info on that, and then Debbie can fill you in on the payment.
Great. Yeah, so early next week, right after Thanksgiving, you're going to get an email for everyone who has already gone through some part of the registration process. You'll get an email that we're calling it phase 2 of registration. It is a very detailed thing where you're going to tell us what day you're arriving, what flights you're going to be on, so we can start to arrange airport transfers. That's what you'll tell us. who you want to travel with, the electives that you want to be on. We ask, you don't need to have all of that information done before you start this registration process. We ask that you fill it out to the best of your ability, but if you haven't booked your flight home yet, still fill it out, pick your elective at that point. And then when you have your flight home, let us know so that we can, make sure that gets into the system as well. So it can be updated on an ongoing basis, but you'll want to fill that out as quickly as possible. And then for the invoicing, we are working internally on sending out invoices to everybody who has already completed part of that registration. So you'll be getting that within the next week or so. And once you get that, you'll be able to call in with, you can pay by check, you can pay by credit card, you can, bring us cash if there'll be multiple ways that we can take the payment for that.
And you want our return flight information, even if we're staying on with family or to stay there for a while, you want all our information. Like we're going to stay on in Israel for a while, just a little bit.
We're asking for it. Yeah, we're asking for it. Just so we have, records of who's staying, who's going. If you don't fill it out, then that just means we're going to question whether or not you're actually coming home with us. It will just help us prepare for how many buses we need to get from the hotel to the airport on the night of the 11th, that type of stuff.
Okay. Thanks.
We don't need your seat number or anything, right?
Anything else? Other questions? And you'll see David there taking your picture and shooting video, and you just have to be nice to him all the time. He's going to make us all look great.
Yeah, any group photos you guys want, just track me down.
Yeah, right. Just find him. I couldn't be more excited about this trip. And Ronnie asked before where we are in terms of registration. And as of this morning, we're at 158 people registered, and we have many more we know are planning on registering. So I think, we'll have more than 200, hoping for 250, which is just an incredible testament to where we are, that the community wants to do this, wants to be together, and wants to support Israel for all its complications. This relationship matters a great deal. So,
And for any of you who have friends who may not know about this, please have them go on to the website at, what is it, San Diego sdcommunitytrip.org to get more information. We would love to have each of you be ambassadors for our trip and bring your friends.
Dana's already doing a great job of that.
and Debbie, do you mind just throwing your email address in the chat? So any questions you have that you need answered, you can just send them to Debbie. And if she doesn't know the answer immediately, she'll get it for you quickly, and she will take care of you. And she's really been helpful on that. So I think unless anyone has any other questions or comments, please, we are so excited to see you guys come with us. Dan, did you have a question? Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Wishing you all just very, very happy holidays. And I'm excited to see you in the new year.
Thank you so much for your time. Excited.
Wonderful.
Bye.
Bye-bye.